think it's time. So most welcome everybody to today's webinar about the ultrasound robot Arthur. My name is Caroline Colliander and I work as a project manager at Karolinska Institutet within diverse research projects in the field of rheumatology. I'm also part of the SRQ office, and that's why I'm here today to introduce today's webinar. The webinar is organized within the RDS project, and the project purpose is to facilitate digital development within the field of rheumatology. And this is the last webinar before the summer, so we are really excited to have something special for you. ROPCA is here at CFR in Stockholm to have a presentation about their automated ultrasound robot Arthur, and we thought that this could be a perfect opportunity to have a webinar as well. So today's webinar is about Arthur, and we will learn more about the technology behind the ultrasound robot, how it could interact with patients, and also understand a little bit more about how to integrate it into clinical practice. And with us today, we have several representatives from ROPCA, but two of them are Søren Just, a specialist within rheumatology and also one of the co-founders of ROPCA. And at the moment, you're currently a CMO at ROPCA, but also work as a clinician. And then we have also Johannes Schäferhoff, the CEO, in the background. And Søren, you will give us a thorough presentation of Arthur in just a minute. But before that, just some technicalities. As I said before, this webinar is the last before the summer, but we've already planned several webinars for the upcoming fall. So please keep an eye on the SRQ webpage to get more information about it. And this webinar is recorded by ROPCA, and the recording will be available at the SRQ homepage for about 30 days for everyone to see. So please tell your colleagues missing out on this opportunity to go to the webpage and just see it afterwards. And to keep the sound as good as possible, all videos and microphones have been turned off. But please do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat. Me and Stephanie, we will sit here and we will keep track on all the questions. But that's all for me. And Søren, thank you. We are so excited to have you here. And please go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity to come here for ROPCA and show you Arthur, the world's first fully automated system for scanning hands. So I'll just share my presentation now, and please be free to ask questions during the talk, so it's a little interactive. And in the end, we will also show a scan on a person here in the room. So, yes, as has been introduced, my name is Søren Just, and here is I have together with Rajit, who is a professor in robotics at University of Southern Denmark. We've started the project of fully automated ultrasound, and we did that back in 2016. So this has been a long travel now to a product on the market. I'm working in the clinic and my main focus there has been arthritis, working a lot with especially rheumatoid arthritis with ultrasound, synovial biopsies, etc. So for us, that was a good starting point for doing automated ultrasound. And that's what the aim for Arthur is for currently. But as I will also talk about, is that we are now making the aim bigger with more diseases of the hand. Yeah, as you all know, RA is this chronic and severely debilitating disease affecting around 1% of the population in Denmark, 0.8%. 1 of 3 lose their ability to work, and hitting females much harder than men. So why do we need an Arthur? Why do we need automated ultrasound and ultrasound interpretation? Well, if we start looking at the other side of the Atlantic, we see here that in the US already there is a gap between demand and supply of rheumatologists, and it's not only doctors, it's also nurses really lacking, and this will just grow in the coming years. And if we look at just the countries around us, we have massive problems in the UK, where we have also talked to a lot of rheumatologists, and in Germany with gaps, some areas completely without rheumatology currently, and also in Australia. So really, this is also a way to really look at this problem from a completely different angle. Could we help our patients, maybe a subsection of our patients, to a faster treatment, to a better monitoring, without us being more overloaded? If we look at, this is just some data that 40% of patients wait more than 2 years for examination. That's obviously a problem when the recommendation is optimally within 6 weeks after symptom debut being seen by a rheumatologist. And just here in Europe, you see some waiting times over 6 months. So the problem is there. Yeah, and of course, this affects the quality of life of the patients and also directly hits the economy, where it has been shown in several studies that early detection and treatment is much cheaper for society also. Okay, so why do we go automated with ultrasound? Well, we have early RA detection is one point. Another point is, could we use systems like this for improved triage of patients with hand arthralgia, maybe to exclude arthritis, combine it with blood samples? What about monitoring of established RA, using Arthur to get the same objective as disease activity assessment every time, and thereby maybe also being able to more precisely dosage our medication. So this goes really both ways, that we can, of course, early treatment with ramping up treatment, but you could also see it the other way around. What about patients, for example, on biologics for a safer dose reduction? This is also try to also see this as a patient-centered approach, with one center in Denmark doing a study where the patients can be scanned when they feel they have a flare-up. So try to use automation in that setting also. And but taking the last step here is introducing systematic ultrasound and ultrasound interpretation to areas with little or no rheumatology expertise. So, for example, having systems, for example, outside Berlin, where the patients can be scanned, so they don't need to use an entire day of going into Charité in Berlin Central, for example, just as an example. So RA detections in the hand. Currently Arthur scans both hands and wrists, and this makes sense in RA because if you hear the ACR slogan for RA, it's in your hands. Here is a study from Holland where a little over 500 new RA patients have been examined, and there 99.6% of the patients had arthritis in one or more joints of the hands or wrist just at the baseline visit. So that's why it makes sense to use this system for early detection of RA. It has also been shown that, for example, in patients in biologics, if there is no arthritis of the hands or wrists, it's a safe sign that the patient is in remission. So that's another way of thinking. And of course, this is one of the things that made the creation of the system even possible, is that there is agreement on how to scan and how to interpret images. This is the Euro-OMRAC system, where you have grades from 0, then 1, 2, 3, and you have it on grayscale, and you have it on color flow Doppler. And this is the system that Arthur uses to score images. It's the Euro-OMRAC system, and the system also, which we will show later, also tries to show the doctor why does it think it's grade 2 with drawing on the ultrasound image and explaining also, I think this is a grade 2 due to that and that. So it's an explainable AI system also. How efficient is Arthur? This is a thought example. But if, for example, if you see this is from Copenhagen data there, from there where they say that they see around 18 patients before they find one RA patient. Also from Düsseldorf, it's kind of the same numbers we get, that there is a lot of arthralgia, but without inflammatory disease. And some centers say 10, some say 13, but it's in that ballpark. So if we think in Arthur here, maybe we could say that, but what if all of them are scanned by Arthur initially, and in 13 of 18 there is absolutely no inflammation, there is normal blood samples, etc. So you could very, very fast give the patient reassurance that there are, for example, no signs of arthritis, but you have clear signs of OA, for example, and normal blood samples. And then you have some a minority which where there is signs of disease activity. And we have deliberately said 5 of 18 on this slide. Maybe it's a little too high, but it's also to tell you a little bit about the system, that it's very good. It's currently extremely good at excluding RA, but it is a little bit too sensitive. So it will take take a little bit more patients in than actually have RA. But this is the way we've done it on purpose, so we get all the RA patients. Okay, how is Arthur used in the clinics? Well, that's very. We have 5 Arthurs out now, and it's used very different in different clinics. But I can tell you a little bit about how we use Arthur in my clinic. It has its own little room where patients go in, and at the first visit they are always accompanied by a nurse or other health worker that just gets them started, so that they are not worried about this complete new system. Because you have to remember that this is the first time many of these patients ever see a robot. So you have to just and they're a little worried, what is this? But then the first time they scan, they just completely relax, and the other. And if they're on the second or third visit, they said, "Oh, you don't need to come in here. I'll do it myself." So it's also a nice way to see it, and also in our data on patient experience, which we were worried about, because how do elderly, for example, would see this? We've gotten very positive input that they like this thorough examination. Okay. But the patient is then scanned by Arthur. An Arthur scan, if you take 22 joints, takes 15 to 20 minutes. You can, of course, reduce the number of joints if you want a faster scan, but it's in that ballpark. And we have at least in my department, we have a time schedule where we put patients in. So it's not just random patients coming. They have a time slot where they can come, and then they go to the nurse after, for example. And blood samples are taken before most of the times. But you probably know this issue with patients. A report is produced. I will show you some examples of that a little later, where the RA activity, arthritis activity in the different joints are shown. The system then moves the report generated both to a server located at the hospital and to the electronic patient journal. We have talks with Dan BU about putting it there also, but it's not done that yet. It's not running yet. But if we translate that to Sweden, that would be something like much of the same, I think, but then SRQ instead, where you can see images in there and reports. So I think that's a very nice system or registry SRQ also. Yeah, just going a little bit into detail on how is Arthur used by the patient. This is the system. This is Arthur, and you can also see it in the background here. We will do a demonstration and just after this presentation. That Arthur is composed of a 3D camera up here, a screen here that both shows information to the patient, but also the system also talks to the patient and guides the patient through a scan. We have a robotic arm here that moves the probe and can move it in all kinds of angles, and also do these sweeping motions, so we collect a lot of images from each joint. And then an important point is that an ultrasound system needs to be connected to Arthur. Then Arthur controls the ultrasound machine, but the ultrasound is not in Arthur. So it's just, I think that's an important point. We are compatible with almost all the major brands. And if you have a major brand that we have not tested, we can test it to see if it's compatible. So it's important that the machine makes good images for our AI to be able to interpret them, and you get nice pictures, obviously. Okay, so the patient scans their social security card or just enters their social security number on the screen. The system guides the patient through putting on gel, and this is I think this is the major point why we had a person in there the first time, is that so they put on gel, enough gel. So lots of gel makes good ultrasound images. So that's a little patient guidance can be needed there, but the system also tells them. Yeah, successful application. So the patient has a lot of gel on the hand when it starts, and then it tells the patient place the hand on the screen, and then it will start scanning, and the patient can follow how the process is going. And then in the end, you have scanned first the right hand, and then it says, now I'm going to scan your left hand, and then it scans the left hand. And you can also see that if you have scanned, for example, one hand and it's not completely satisfied with the quality of one of the joints images, it will say, please let your hand remain on the screen, and it will go back to the joint and do another sweep of the joint, maybe with a little different angle to make the pictures better. So that is also something that the system does. It can make a rescan of a joint. The report immediately after the patient is finished scanning, a report is generated, and it's placed both on the server, but which you can access through a web interface, but also a document is sent to your electronic patient journal, where you can go through a PDF where all the scores are and all images can be seen. Yeah, we do a Euler-Omerak rating, and we, as I will show in a minute, do explainable AI, so you can see in each image why it thinks it's a grade 3, for example, disease activity. And then documentation, this is done automatically instead of, it's all the images are there on the server for you, and the report is there. So a lot of the documentation is already done without you having to do anything. Here you see a report from our current system, where you see that the 22 joints here are marked as green. This means that Arthur has not found any disease activity in these 22 joints. You see here that if you then scroll down in the report, you can see the joint images. And maybe a little bit difficult to see on this, but that there are markings on each picture where there is red for bone, for example, green for tendon, and you see blue for the synovium. If there is disease activity, there is one grayscale image and one Doppler image for each joint. And we also have the possibility, which I will show you in a minute, that if you go into the web server, you can see a small video of the joint also. If you want, a second assessment, because these images are the ones that our AI has selected as the best, but maybe you just want a second assessment of the Doppler, so you can do that also. What do the patients feel about being scanned by Arthur? This is a study we did where the patient was first scanned by a rheumatologist and then by Arthur, and then there were questionnaires in between. How was the discomfort with rheumatologist versus Arthur? How was there any pain with the examination? And 0 is nothing, 10 is severe, and there was no statistical significant difference being scanned by Arthur than being scanned by rheumatologist. And this has obviously been a long process, because in our first versions of Arthur, it pressured too much, not on a healthy human being, because we found it perfect in the lab, but then we came out to the patients with arthritis, and they said it simply pressured too much on an arthritic joint. So then we had to go back to the lab, develop the pressure system even more, and is now very acceptable for the patients. These patients were also asked, would you be willing to be scanned by Arthur again? And they said yes, all of them. So that was nice. And then, would you like Arthur to be part of your future RA visits? And I think we had something like 89%, but to say yes around that. So these are data that we really like to get, and we are very interested, of course, in the patients that like the system, but we are equally interested in the patients that find difficulty with the system, to try to develop the system, make it even better. And if they're worried about something, we take that into account. And one of the things there that we are very focused on is that the patients which are most worried about technology from our earlier studies is patients with short duration of education. That was clearly significant. This is a former study than this. So therefore, Arthur also talks to the patient, so they do not necessarily need to read, and it's very much driven by pictures on the screen also. So we get around the problems with the reading.
Just a small question. You say that Arthur talks to the patient. Is it in all languages, or is it English, or how does that work?
We currently have Danish, German, and English, but we can set it up to any language you want. So Swedish would not be a problem.
Yes, just another question.
Yeah.
Did you get any feedback from the healthcare professionals as well using Arthur? What do they think?
That is a separate project that we are running in a Copenhagen nurse-driven clinic. Especially, we've done that, and we get continuous feedback from them, but we also get feedback from nurses down by me, and so that has also been part of the development. That there's some things that they found not perfect or very little perfect, then we have tried to incorporate in the workflow that makes the system easier for them to use. For example, in our very early versions, there were a lot of logins to start the machine, which is an obvious pain, but now we have reduced that, so it's easier to start the system. Such things. And also the gel dispenser and taking the gel off after, such practical things. We try to incorporate that much now in the solution. The clinic gets not just a robot, it's it's all the way around. And we usually also stay by the place afterwards to make sure that the system is okay incorporated into the clinic. Because that's a large thing, because it's a completely new system. So implementation is a big thing, and also has to be adjusted to the to each individual place, because RA monitoring is not the same. It's different in different places. We can see that pretty clearly. So yeah.
Do you have examples of like two different implementations?
Yeah, for example, in Hillerød in Denmark, which is a major hospital in Copenhagen, it's very much nurse-driven. So they use it very much to patients being scanned by where the nurse is unsure, is this disease activity or not? Then it's scanned, and then they can contact the doctor to see through the report. So that's one way of using it. And then, for example, we in my clinic, the patients come in for the scan before they are seen by a doctor. And for example, if they're seen by a young doctor, which many of our patients are, many of them are not rheumatologists, because we have such a big throughput of patients. So there we use Arthur a lot to see, so we can already say at the beginning, this patient do not have arthritis, so you can focus your talk in another direction. Compared to a patient with severe arthritis on ultrasound, maybe positive CSP, then you can focus your talk in a completely other direction also, and inform the nurses that there will be then be registration, there will all this flow. So it's also putting giving a new instrument to younger doctors, and we older also use it, but to higher the quality simply of a visit. So they're different. Then we talked with the UK that wants to use it much more outside the hospitals, so the patients do not need to come to the hospitals due to the major lack of personnel. So there is different usages, and I don't think that we have found them all. I think there are still more. Yeah.
We actually got a question here in our chat.
Yeah.
How do you validate the results from the scanning? Do you have studies comparing with manual examinations?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We now have two studies running. We have one in Copenhagen and one at Fyn, where they will do exactly that. Not only they are scanning healthy, they are scanning RA patients, both by Arthur, then by a specialist. And we also, in the trial in Copenhagen, also following patients for 6 months using RA for disease activity assessment compared to traditional, both ultrasound and traditional palpation. But I don't have the data yet for these studies, but they will come. It's a longer process because we are not involved in those studies like that. It's very independent, and it should be so. But these data will come.
Yeah. Do you have a time frame for that? Is it number of patients or?
I think the first data. I think Copenhagen will first. This is just an estimation because they run their own trials, but I think that will be first start next year, because they are simply so big, these trials. But I think the trial from Fyn will come out this year. The data from there, and there we compare just both for RA and OA. But maybe I should just run through because we run on with the presentation.
Yeah, we go on with the presentation. Yeah.
I'll just talk a little bit about what is, because it was just what I was just talking about. I would just like to show you that these are the places where we have an Arthur now. It's Hillerød and Glostrup, both major hospitals located in Copenhagen. We have Køge University Hospital, which is located here, which are using Arthur now very much in a collaboration with general practitioners. So patients with hand pain at the GPs can come and have a scan by Arthur. So that's another use case so they see a lot of patients with OA, for example. So it's just to give you a perspective on this. Svendborg, where I am, here on Fyn, Odense, where ROPCA is placed, and Sønderborg, which is called the Danish Arthritis Hospital, has one, and they are very much focused on this patient patient flare-up trial, where the patients themselves can come and have a scan by Arthur to see, and this is also, they also have a manual scan. So there are some different perspectives. Then we are starting up in Germany, Düsseldorf, hopefully this year also. So that's just a major German center also. And of course, we'd love to come to Sweden. Okay, so RA, we have that certified. We're working with that now. How am I time-wise? 10 minutes, perfect. Okay, and then we have osteoarthritis. I will tell you a little bit about that. That will come hopefully later this year, where we are approved for diagnosing that with Arthur. After that, we will move on to carpal tunnel syndrome and tenosynovitis, which is a big jump because that will mean that the patient should turn the hand around on the screen, so we scan from the other side. So this will be a big development project, but we have a lot of images on tenosynovitis and scanned a lot of carpal tunnel syndrome, so we will start the early days AI development of this. And then in the end, we have this elusive disease, which you all know, of course, psoriatic arthritis, which is sort of a mix with the way we have arthritis, where you have enthesitis, tenosynovitis, and often also some OA changes. So we have taken that in lastly, and there we will also try to use the camera on Arthur to take, because we have pictures of the hand and we show them to the patient also, so they can see their big hand in the start, and hopefully the joints become a little smaller, but also use it to look at nail psoriasis. If our camera could detect that early, maybe we could use that. Okay. If some of you are interested, this is our newest publication where we present the version 1 of our AI to score osteoarthritis. We use the EuroMax system, scoring from 0 to 3 on osteophytes, and we are. I think we have a more detailed image here. You can see some of the results here. Just to give you an idea, if you look at this PEA, that's percent exact agreement, and if you go down to the test set here, there is exact agreement between AI and the expert on 68%. And then you have percent close agreement, which means that maybe the AI says grade 3 and the expert says grade 2. There's only one difference, then that would be percent close agreement. And there it's 95%. So what we've done there is that we have made a much bigger study, which we will publish, where we have used 5 experts instead of just one, so that's coming, and we have developed this AI even further. But this is just to say that OA is coming also for Arthur. Another thing that Arthur also, another thing that Arthur also can do now is taking small video clips of the Doppler signal of a joint, and this is placed on the server, so that you also can go in there and see your actual if you want your own evaluation also. These are some of the developments we find very interesting in maybe implementing video more, and also because we do these sweeps of the joints, we have a lot of material, looking at 3D modeling of the joints also. So there's a lot of possibilities in an Arthur, and the data it collects is the center's data. So there is a lot of possibilities for using Arthur, not only in the clinic, but also in research. This is an example of how maybe how the new presentations of a scan will look. For example, where you have a synovial hypertrophy score from 0 to 3, you have a Doppler score, and you even have an osteophyte score for the same patient. So we collect a lot of data, so it will give a much more advanced picture of why does this patient have pain, instead of just no arthritis. Well, there's no arthritis, but there is osteophytes. For example, grade 3 osteophyte. So there is an explanation for the pain. So this is the direction we're going, and the slide is called A New Beginning. I think I've seen a little bit too much Star Wars, but yeah. Okay. Do you want to stay up to date with our ROPCA? Yeah, you can go into our webpage, ROPCA.com. You can sign up to our newsletter. We will send you our newest development. And of course, if you want to try an Arthur, please also contact us so we can have a talk regarding that. Thank you. So maybe we will do a live demo now. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some minutes left, so we thought we could show a demonstration live here.
Yeah. And will you switch your?
Yes, Vivian's going to do that.
Vivian's switch camera. Okay, perfect.
So we are scanning your left hand. We are scanning your second, third, and fourth finger just for a quick demo. You have your fake ID card here. You can scan it up here. Let me go. Scan. Type your ID and click next. Let me insert manually. You can also insert manually if you forgot your ID card. Confirm that your ID number is correct. Roll up on sleeves. So you're asked to roll up on sleeves, remove the jewelry. You already did that. When we apply gel to your left hand, the gel dispenser gently. Let me know if you need to go. Slowly. Lines. A bit more on your MCP joints. That. Yeah, let me put it forward. So you want to put them out. Okay. Next. Please check the applied gel. Verify that it looks like the image. It does. Remember to use the arm rest scan. When you are ready, place your left hand in the white area on the screen. Keep your hand steady during the scan. The scan will start shortly. Now the robot is identifying where your joints are, where you place your hand, and tells the robot to move to those positions. And you will feel slight pressure as it knows that it's now in contact with your joint. Then it will slightly alleviate the pressure and move around with a sweeping motion in order to find a good image. And you can see the image live on the ultrasound screen. Once it's identified a place where we can see the things it needs to see, we'll stop. We take an image in B mode and Doppler mode, and also a Doppler video, and then move on to the next one. It will let you know how far in the progress it is. On the screen, scanned 2 out of 6 joints at the moment.
So how does it feel, Lotta?
Okay. Time pressure like you, not about, I mean, problems to it. Does the patient see that? When
Yes,
it scans?
They can see what you see.
Okay,
This is quite
very interesting. See,
this is how it would normally be set up in the human. This is your last joint. Looks like it's captured images of all the joints, so.
Scan of your hand is now complete. The scan is now complete. Thank you for your time.
I'm going to clean after that.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks.
We got a question actually. Lotta, did you feel safe while you were being scanned?
Yes.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
But I can understand if the patient feels something when they have pain, but I didn't feel anything, but some pressure. But
Great.
and it was fun to see it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our time is up.